Interesting, guys. Okay. Anyway, well, still have a few minutes to sit here and figure this out, right? Formats. Oh, you can do screenshots. Oh, that's interesting. Okay, cool. And what else we got? Go away that. Oh, no, I can't get out of that. Hey, get out of that. No. Oh, we froze. That is not a good thing. Okay, there we are. We were frozen. That is not a good thing to happen. So anyway, I'm looking at my controls here. Okay. Well, in case you haven't figured it out, hey lady here. Hey, I am here with Beatles Trivia. I was uh, missing doing Beatles Trivia actually since Haga went down, right? So I did a a little sample Beatles trivia pre-recorded that I posted on YouTube. Keep the momentum going. Anyway, so I am trying different platforms, and this one, Zoom, I thought would work for Beatles trivia because with this one, they say it's best if you use your laptop. Although I do have it on my phone, but I'm on my laptop at the moment, which is why you're not getting a really good HD picture. Thank goodness you don't have to see anything but me. I feel sorry for you on this tour. Anyway, so that's kind of the scoop. So right now, like I said, I'm on Zoom, which is a platform that I've been on your side of for my classes, online classes and stuff. So this is the first time it's on my side, and I'm hoping that you guys are out there and because I can't see anybody. The chat is like not chatting. Okay, what is this? Who can share? All participants. Who can start sharing when someone shares? All participants. Okay, so you guys, you can share. Yes, you can. I've just enabled everybody to share. What other choices do we have here? It's file, emojis. Let's see. Really? Oh, okay. I don't really need an emoji at the moment. I need to know if you guys are out there is what I is what I need. Okay, that is sharing screen. Oh, look at that. See, that would be something good. Now I know how to do that. Yay. Yay, yay. Well, let's see, what time is it? It's 2 o'clock. And Beatles trivia is supposed to start now. Now I'm guessing that, okay, everyone in the meeting, okay. I'm guessing, let's see, we've got the microphone is on. What does that button do? Select the mic. Okay, that's cool. Don't need to worry about that. This does what? Oh, haha, there we go. At least you get to see the Beatles behind me now. I just unblurred my background. Woohoo. Uh, darn. All right, video settings. Ooh, I wonder, could I get this any better? Ooh, let's see. Can I put it in HD? Did that just do anything? No, not particularly. Okay. Got Beatles music playing in the background. Are you hearing it? That would be nice, right? So I don't know what's going on here with this. It says I have a participant. Oh, it's me. You got to be kidding me. Is there something I need to do to let people in? I don't know. I really don't know what all is going on. Let's see, meeting information, meeting ID, passcode, do. I am, let's see, I am connected. That works, but I don't know what else to do here. So here's what we're gonna do. Here's that. Get rid of this since nobody's there. Okay, and I will just um, begin. Okay, I have some trivia things. See, one of these trivia books, let's see, gives you some facts also. Oh, there's not that many there. All right. All right, all right, all right. And this one, what does this one do? I'll show you the books in a second. Okay, so this one has the larger set of facts. Yeah, much. Okay, let's just go for the trivia. Okay. I think we did that one. Okay. All right. So in this book, it gives you questions, the answers, and then a did you know section. Okay. I think did you know may explain the answers in more depth. Okay. So, all right. This is the book that we are using this time. Um, I also have another book. What is that glare? Also have another book, and I have some cards as well. So it challenges us. It says, use this book to test your knowledge with a round of trivia on various topics and perhaps renew, review, or gain new knowledge along the way. Whether you consider yourself a diehard fan or are only faintly familiar with the Beatles, this book offers the opportunity to reinforce your knowledge of one of the most important bands in the history of popular music. Let's see how much you know about the Beatles. Their words, not mine. Okay, so we'll go with this chapter 2. Key people. Okay, so this is going to be 20 questions about key people. All right, now let's see, how do I want to do this? And then you'd have to write them down. Okay, all right, here we go. Partnered with John Lennon, which other Beatle was jointly credited for most of the Beatles' music? Partnered with John Lennon, which other Beatle was jointly credited for most of the Beatles' music? Gee, wonder who that could be. Tick tock, tick tock. Give you all a chance to gather your thoughts. Tick tock, tick tock, time. And for those of you who answered Paul McCartney, you are correct. Question number 2. I know this one too. Which Beatle was considered the lead guitarist? And here's the giveaway, sometimes called the quiet Beatle. Which Beatle was considered lead guitarist and sometimes called the quiet Beatle? And if you said George Harrison, you are correct. Question number 3. Back in their early years in Hamburg and in Liverpool, who was the Beatles' manager? Was it Paul McCartney, Alan Williams, Brian Epstein, or Alan Klein? Again, your choices for who managed the Beatles in their early years in Hamburg and Liverpool. Was it Paul McCartney, Alan Williams, Brian Epstein, or Alan Klein? This one might require a little bit more thinking, right? So I'm going to wait and tease with the answer. Alan Williams is the person who managed them back in the very early days. Question number 4, true or false? Harrison, McCartney, and Lennon all played guitar. Hang on 1 second. Alexa, increase volume half a notch. Shake it up, baby. You have to hear it, guys, right? Hopefully it won't drown me out. Anyway, okay, so true or false? Harrison, McCartney, and Lennon all played guitar. Is that true or is that false? Pray tell. True. That is true. Question 5. What is drummer Ringo Starr's birth name? What is drummer Ringo Starr's birth name? Is it Bo Stark, Richard Starkey, Ray Stern, or Ron Strum? Again, Ringo's real name, Bo Stark, Richard Starkey, Ray Stern, or Ron Strum? And the answer is Richard Starkey. Richard Starkey is Ringo's true name. Okay, who was the Beatles' most trusted manager who helped bring them into the mainstream spotlight? Who was it that helped bring them into the mainstream spotlight? Was it Alan Klein, Michael Jackson, Murray Wilson, or Brian Epstein? Alan Klein, Michael Jackson, Murray Wilson, or Brian Epstein? And the answer is Brian Epstein. Do you find that do you find that you go with the first answer that pops into your head when somebody is like this? Okay. Do you go with the first thing you think of, or do you back off and think a little bit more? I'm always one for gut instinct, and I think I'd apply it here as well. George Harrison was best friends with which famous guitarist of the band Cream? This is question 7. George Harrison was best friends with which famous guitarist of the band Cream? Was it Mick Jagger, Eddie Van Halen, Eric Clapton, or Chuck Berry? Mick Jagger, Eddie Van Halen, Eric Clapton, or Chuck Berry? What you think? Okay, the answer is Eric Clapton. Eric Clapton was his best friend. And actually, didn't George Harrison's girlfriend, Patty Harrison, or his wife, I guess, didn't she end up with Eric Clapton somewhere along the line? Interesting. Question 8. Who is called the Beatles guru after the Beatles began studying transcendental meditation techniques that he invented? Was it Suri Suri Ravi Shankar? Was it Krishna Pahadi Jose? Or Maharishi Mahesh Yogi? Okay. Who was the Beatles' guru after they began studying the art of transcendental meditation? Okay, the answer is Maharishi Mahesh Yogi. What was, question 9, what was the name of the original bass player for the Beatles who John Lennon convinced to join them from arts? What's the name of the original bass player who John Lennon convinced to join the Beatles from art school? Was it Stuart Sutcliffe, Martin Scott, Pete Best, or Paul McCartney? Again, Stuart Sutcliffe, Martin Scott, Pete Best, or Paul McCartney? Anybody guessing? The answer is Stuart Sutcliffe. He went to art school with John back in the day when they were still in Liverpool and John was in art school. And he had convinced Stuart, his good friend at the time, to join the band. Okay. Let's see. Question 10. Oops, we're halfway through. Oops. Question 10. After arranging their residency in Hamburg, who did the Beatles hire to be their first official drummer in 1960? After taking the job in Hamburg, who did they hire to be their first official drummer in 1960? Was it George Harrison, Miles Davis, Pete Best, or Stuart Sutcliffe? George Harrison, Miles Davis, Pete Best, or Stuart Sutcliffe? And the answer is Pete Best. He was their drummer at the time. True or false? The Beatles never used session musicians. The Beatles never used session magicians. Is that true or false? False. It was false. And what was the name, question 12, of the producer who signed the Beatles and recorded them for the first time at Abbey Road Studios? Who was the producer? What's the name of the producer who recorded the Beatles at Abbey Road for the very first time there? Was it Jack Mavis, George Martin, Phil Spector, or Quincy Jones? Jack Mavis, George Martin, Phil Spencer, or Quincy Jones? And the answer is George Martin. Okay. Question 13. Who was the soul musician from Houston, Texas, that played electric piano and organ for the Beatles in 1969 and performed with the band at their final live performance later that year? Who is the soul musician from Houston, Texas, who played electric piano and organ for the Beatles in 1969 and then later performed with them at their final live performance that year? Was it Billy Preston, Ray Charles, Elton John, or David Bowie? Billy Preston, Ray Charles, Elton John, or David Bowie? Who was it? Tick tock, tick tock. Billy Preston. It was Billy Preston. Who is the famous multimedia artist whom John Lennon met at the Indica Gallery in London in 1966 and then married in 1969? So who was the famous artist that John met at an art gallery in London in 1966 and married her 3 years later? Was it May Pang, Yoko Ono, or Cynthia Lennon? May Pang, Yoko Ono, Cynthia Lennon. And the answer, of course, is Yoko Ono. Question 15. During their early years in Hamburg, who was the German photographer who captured photos of the original members? During their early days in Hamburg, who was the German photographer who captured photos of the original members of the band? Was it Ursula Anders, Anita Ostberg, Astrid Kitcher, or Marlene Dietrich? Again, Ursula Andress, Anita Ostberg, Astrid Kitcher, and Marlene Dietrich. And the answer is Astrid Kircher. She was the young blonde photographer. She was Stuart Sutcliffe's girlfriend. What do you believe? Okay. Question 16. Which road manager started in 1963, contributed to many of the Beatles' recordings, and even appeared in most of their films? Was it Tony Barrow, Mal Evans, Jeff Emmerich, or Tommy Moore? Tony Barrow, Mal Evans, Jeff Emmerich, or Tommy Moore? Who was it? It was Mal Evans. Okay. Question 17. Who was the publicist for the Beatles that coined the term the Fab Four while he was promoting the band? Who was the publicist for the Beatles that coined the term Fab Four? Was it Brian Epstein, Albert Grossman, Tony Barrow, or Barry Pepper? Brian Epstein, Albert Grossman, Tony Barrow, or Barry Pepper? The answer was Tony Barrow. What was the name of the recording engineer at EMI Studios who worked with the Beatles from 1966 to 1969 and contributed greatly to their innovative and non-traditional recording techniques? The name of the recording engineer at EMI who worked with the Beatles from 66 to 69 and helped with their creative recording techniques. Was it Tom Schultz, Tom Meek, George Massenburg, or Jeff Emmerich? Tom Schultz, Tom Meek, George Massenburg, or Jeff Emmerich? The answer is Jeff Emmerich. Question 19. What was the name of John Lennon's fellow student at Liverpool College of Art who started the Mercy Beat, a newspaper in the early 60s that covered the Liverpool music scene? The name of John's fellow student at the art college who started the newspaper Mercy Beat. Was it Tommy Moore, Bill Harry, Ken Scott, or Jimmy Nicol? It was Bill Herring. True or false? Question. Oh, for real, this is what we end on. Question number 20, please. True or false? Bob Dylan was a member of the Beatles for 1 year. Bob Dylan was a member of the Beatles for 1 year. Now you know, false, totally false. Yes, indeed, totally false. Anybody get them all right? There were maybe 5 I didn't know, 5 or 6 maybe. Some of them were easy, and like this one was stupid. Okay, so we have still a couple minutes. So here's the do you know section that I was telling you about. I was debating whether to read it before or after the questions, but it has the answers to some of the questions and explains them in more depth. So, continuing with what we just learned, here comes the rest of the story. Did you know John Lennon attended the Liverpool College of Art in 1957, where he met Stuart Sutcliffe and invited him to join the Beatles, although they were using a different band name at the time. In 1961, Sutcliffe left the band to continue his painting, and sadly, in 1962, he passed away from a cerebral hemorrhage. The fifth Beatle was an informal title given to various people who were either a member at one point or strongly associated with the band. Manager Brian Epstein, former drummer Pete Best, former bassist Stuart Sutcliffe, producer George Martin, and musician Billy Preston have all held that title due to their close involvement with the Beatles. Eric Clapton was close with the Beatles and recorded for them as a band as well as for each member on their solo albums. Clapton's closest Beatle buddy was fellow guitarist George Harrison. The Beatles rarely used session musicians since all of them were more than proficient on several instruments. In the first half of their career, especially, they rarely used an extra musician outside of their producer, George Martin, who would occasionally record on keyboard instruments. Later into the 1960s, they started to include orchestral instruments and additional vocalists in some of their music. Astrid Hitcher is known for her photographs of the Beatles from their time in Hamburg. She was a professional photographer and a big fan of the Beatles. She was also engaged to Stuart Sutcliffe before his death in 1962. She's often credited with their famous mop-top haircuts and giving the band their image at that time. Yoko Ono met John Lennon in London in 1966. She continued to pursue him until he left his first wife, Cynthia, a few years later. Lennon even changed his middle name to Ono, but because of British law, had to also keep his middle name given at birth. His full name is John Winston Ono Lennon. Ta-da! So, this is on Zoom, and I don't think I like it very much because I didn't know if it was supposed to have a chat. I thought it did, but maybe it's me just learning and didn't push the right buttons. I don't know. I didn't swipe the right way. but I'm showing as my only participant myself. Go figure. So, if I can figure out how to download this, perhaps I'll post it on YouTube so it won't be missed at any rate. So they ladies back. I have a tour at the Annapolis Irish Festival coming up on Facebook Live on Saturday. And so I guess I can safely say that you can find me on Facebook or YouTube. I'll be doing my tours from probably either one. So Zoom isn't zooming zippy enough for me. So better luck next time. And also, hey guys, if you sort of liked what you see or what have you, you can buy me a coffee, please. Take care. Let's see. Where's the end button? Oh, there it is.